The familiar sound of my father's disapproval echoed through their Victorian mansion. The same house I'd grown up in, where every room held memories of being told I wasn't good enough. "Look at your sister Katherine," Thomas Sterling boomed across the dinner table. "Executive VP at Sterling Properties by 30. And you, Sarah? Still playing with your little, online business." I suppressed a smile, thinking about the latest acquisition my little online business, Nova Real Estate Technologies, had just completed. A $2.8 billion deal that would revolutionize how properties were bought and sold. Not that they knew anything about that. "The real estate market requires experience, connections," my mother Margaret chimed in, refilling her wine glass. "Not these fancy algorithms you keep talking about. Property is about handshakes and networking, dear." Katherine smirked, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. "Speaking of networking, Daddy, we just closed the Henderson portfolio. 30 premium properties, all through traditional relationships." I picked at my food, remembering how Nova's AI had already identified 15 of those properties as overvalued. The Henderson portfolio would be worth half its purchase price within 6 months, but trying to explain market analytics to my family was like teaching quantum physics to a goldfish. "That's real business," my father declared proudly. "Not whatever internet scheme Sarah's wasting her time on. How's that tiny apartment of yours, by the way? Still renting in that questionable neighborhood?" The tiny apartment was actually a penthouse in a building I owned through one of my shell companies. The questionable neighborhood had been strategically chosen as the next up-and-coming area by Nova's predictive algorithms. "It's fine," I said quietly, maintaining my careful facade of mediocrity. "The rent is affordable." "Affordable," Katherine scoffed. "Remember when you turned down that junior position at Sterling? You could have had a corner office by now." I remembered that job offer, clearly entry-level work with a side of daily humiliation, all while watching Katherine fail upward through nepotism. Instead, I'd built Nova, using AI to revolutionize property valuation and acquisition. "Someone has to make the coffee runs," my mother added with fake sympathy. "Though I heard Sterling's looking for a new receptionist. Should I put in a word?" My phone buzzed silently, a message from my COO. "Final contract signed. Operation Home Sweet Home ready to launch. Press release scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow." "Actually," I started, but Katherine interrupted. "Oh my God, did you hear about Nova Real Estate Technologies?" She turned to our father excitedly. "They're the ones buying up prime properties using some kind of computer program. We lost 3 bids to them last month." My father's face darkened. "Amateur operation. Nobody builds a real estate empire through computers. It's about instinct, experience, and family connections," I suggested mildly, thinking about the algorithm that had just identified Sterling Properties' entire portfolio as vulnerable to a hostile takeover. "Exactly." He pointed his fork at me. "That's what you never understood, Sarah. Success in real estate isn't about your fancy degrees or computer codes. It's about who you know." I touched the small pendant around my neck. Actually a secure key containing Nova's core algorithms. "And what if someone found a better way?" "There is no better way," Katherine declared. "That's why Sterling Properties has dominated this market for 3 generations. Right, Daddy?" Our father beamed at her. "That's my girl. Speaking of which, we're expanding into your neighborhood next month, Sarah. Buying up those outdated buildings, putting in proper luxury developments." "Really?" I took a sip of water, thinking about the shell companies that had already acquired 80% of the area's properties. Interesting timing. "Yes, well, some of us know how to spot opportunity," my mother said. "Unlike others who waste time with computers instead of building real careers." My phone buzzed again. Another message from my COO. "Sterling Properties stock starting to fluctuate. Rumors of the takeover must be leaking. You'll always be a nobody if you don't learn the business properly," my father declared, his voice carrying that familiar tone of disappointment. "Technology can't replace experience." I stood up slowly, smoothing down my deliberately modest dress. "You know what, Dad? You might be right about experience." I picked up my bag, a simple design that cost more than Katherine's monthly salary. "Some lessons you have to learn the hard way." "Leaving already?" Katherine smirked. "Hot date with your computer?" "Something like that," I smiled, thinking about the documents waiting in my real office. Actually, you might want to watch the financial news tomorrow morning. I hear there's going to be an interesting announcement about the local real estate market. Oh. My father's interest peaked slightly. Something Sterling should know about? Trust me, I said, heading for the door. You'll know it when you see it. As I walked to my deliberately average car, I could hear them through the open window, already dismissing me from their minds. Poor Sarah, the failure who couldn't understand real business. Tomorrow they'd learn exactly what kind of business I understood. Starting with the ownership of their precious Victorian mansion. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about waiting for the perfect moment to show them how right you've been all along. The real show was about to begin. The morning after the Sterling family dinner dawned bright and clear. I sat in my real office, the entire top floor of Nova Technologies headquarters, watching multiple screens as the financial networks prepared for what would become a seismic shift in the real estate industry. Miss Sterling, my assistant David appeared with his trademark efficiency. Your family has just arrived at Sterling Properties for their morning meeting. The security feeds are live. I nodded, adjusting my outfit. Gone was yesterday's carefully cultivated image of mediocrity, replaced by a power suit that could fund Katherine's annual shopping budget. And the property documents? I asked, though I already knew everything was in place. All filed and registered. The Sterling mansion and surrounding properties were legally transferred to Nova Holdings at midnight. David's lips twitched. Your father's secretary just tried to access their system and found herself locked out. My phone lit up with a string of messages from Katherine. Something's wrong with our network. Dad's furious, can't access any property files. Who is Nova Technologies? I smiled, remembering all those family dinners where they'd mocked my interest in cybersecurity and property technology. Now their entire digital infrastructure was under my control, courtesy of the algorithms they'd dismissed as playing with computers. Put the security feed on the main screen, I instructed. The wall-mounted display came to life, showing the chaos unfolding in Sterling Properties' main office. My father was red-faced, shouting into his phone while Katherine paced frantically, her Cartier bracelet catching the light as she gestured wildly. My mother sat in Dad's office chair, already on her second glass of morning wine. The press is assembled in the lobby, David reported. Every major financial and real estate publication is here. The Wall Street Journal is running a special feature. The Silent Revolution in Real Estate, How Nova Technologies Changed the Game. I stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city, my city increasingly. Nova's predictive algorithms had helped us acquire prime properties at fraction of their market value, building an empire while traditional firms like Sterling Properties clung to their outdated methods. Miss Sterling, David's voice carried a note of satisfaction, your father is trying to reach the family lawyer. Should I let that call through? No need, I replied, watching the morning sun glint off buildings that now belonged to Nova. He'll figure it out soon enough. Right on cue, my father's voice exploded through the security feed. What do you mean we don't own the building anymore? I'm standing in it right now. Katherine's face had lost all color as she stared at her tablet. Dad, you need to see this. Nova Technologies. They don't just own our building. They own everything. The whole portfolio. Impossible, my father roared. No one could acquire that many properties without us knowing. This is some kind of computer error. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I'd never used, the direct line to my father's office. On the security feed, I watched him snatch up the receiver. Who is this? Do you know who I am? Hello, Dad, I said quietly. Yes, I know exactly who you are. The question is, do you know who I am? The silence on the other end was deafening. On screen, I watched the blood drain from his face. Sarah? What is this? This, I replied, is what happens when you underestimate someone because they prefer algorithms to handshakes. When you dismiss innovation because it doesn't fit your outdated view of how business should work. Katherine had moved closer to the speakerphone, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. You're behind Nova Technologies? But you're just what, Katherine? Just your failure of a sister? Just someone playing with computers? I let out a small laugh. Check your email. You'll find some interesting documents about the Henderson portfolio you were so proud of last night. My mother's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the imported marble floor she'd always bragged about. "The properties," my father whispered. "All of them." "Every single one," I confirmed. "Including, as of midnight, the family mansion. You know, the house where you told me I'd never understand real business? The eviction notice should be arriving any minute." As if on cue, David entered with a tablet displaying multiple delivery confirmations. On screen, I watched a courier enter my father's office with a thick envelope. "You can't do this," my father's voice had lost its usual bombast. "We're family." Family. I moved to sit at my desk, a custom piece that cost more than their annual country club membership. Like when you told potential clients not to waste time on my computer games. Or when Katherine spread rumors about my failed business ventures to discourage investors. The security feed showed Katherine slumping into a chair, her designer outfit wrinkled for the first time in her perfect life. "The Henderson portfolio, you knew it was overvalued." "My algorithms knew," I corrected. "The same algorithms you mocked as a waste of time. They also knew about the structural issues in that office complex you bought last month, and the zoning changes that will devalue half your residential properties." I paused, letting the reality of their situation sink in. "Well, my residential properties now." "How long?" my father demanded. "How long have you been planning this?" "Planning? Dad, I tried to show you what I was building. Remember 3 years ago when I offered to upgrade Sterling's property evaluation systems? You said real estate wasn't about fancy technology." I smiled, though they couldn't see it. "Consider this a very expensive lesson in modernization." The elevator chimed in their office. More couriers arriving with eviction notices for their entire portfolio of properties. On my screens, I could see Sterling Properties' stock price entering free fall as the news broke across financial networks. "The press conference starts in 10 minutes, David murmured. "And the family mansion's security codes have been changed as requested." I stood up, straightening my power suit. "Well, family, I'd love to chat more, but I have a company to run." "Several companies, actually, including what used to be Sterling Properties." "Wait." Katherine's voice had lost its usual condescension. "What are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go?" "You know," I said thoughtfully, "I hear there are some affordable rentals in my questionable neighborhood. Though you might want to hurry, property values there are about to skyrocket." I ended the call and turned to David. "Make sure they're escorted out of the building within the hour. And send them the standard tenant application forms. They might need them." The walk to the press conference was brief, but with each step, I shed another layer of the mask I'd worn for years. No more playing the failed daughter, no more pretending to be less than I was. Sometimes success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about showing them exactly how right you've been all along, one property deed at a time. The revolution in real estate was about to be revealed, and my family had front-row seats to their own obsolescence. Let the show begin. The aftermath of Nova Technologies' takeover unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated symphony. From my office, I watched multiple screens displaying the chaos at Sterling Properties while financial networks scrambled to cover what they were calling the greatest real estate revolution of the digital age. "Miss Sterling," David appeared with a stack of reports. "The initial market response has exceeded our projections. Sterling Properties stock has dropped 60% in the first hour of trading. And..." He paused, allowing himself a small smile. "Your sister has tried to access her executive parking space 3 times. Security keeps turning her away." I moved to the window, watching the city skyline. My skyline now. The morning sun glinted off buildings that had been Sterling Properties' crown jewels just yesterday. Now they were part of Nova's expanding empire, each one a testament to the power of the technology my family had dismissed. My phone buzzed continuously with messages. From Katherine, "Please, we need to talk. I had no idea you were capable of." From Mother, "Darling, surely we can discuss this like family." From Father, "You can't do this to us. We're Sterlings." I forwarded them all to my legal team except for one, from my grandmother, the only person who'd supported my tech dreams from the beginning. "Show them what real innovation looks like, dear. And thank you for keeping my wing of the mansion in the family." The security feed showed my father still in his former office, now technically trespassing in my building. He was red-faced, shouting into his phone while Katherine sat crumpled in a corner, her perfect image finally cracking. My mother had moved on from wine to something stronger. The press is requesting a follow-up interview, David reported. They're particularly interested in how Nova's AI predicted the Henderson portfolio collapse 3 months before Sterling acquired it. Send them the technical analysis, I replied. And make sure Katherine receives a copy. She should understand exactly why her traditional relationships couldn't compete with proper market analytics. My phone rang, the family lawyer probably hoping to negotiate. I let it go to voicemail, remembering all the times he'd sided with my father in dismissing my business proposals. Miss Sterling, David's voice carried a note of satisfaction. The eviction teams have arrived at the family mansion. Would you like to view the security feed? I nodded, and the main screen filled with images of my childhood home. Moving trucks lined the circular driveway where Katherine used to park her luxury cars. Security teams were changing locks while my mother's social circle watched from neighboring properties, phones out, documenting the fall of the Sterling Empire. Their personal belongings will be placed in storage, David confirmed. Except for grandmother's antiques. Those are being transferred to your private collection as requested. I sat at my desk, running my fingers over the smooth surface. The same desk where I'd written the first lines of code for Nova's property evaluation algorithm, while my family attended charity galas and network events. Sarah. My father's voice came through the intercom. He'd finally made it to my floor, past layers of security that had probably wounded his pride even further. We need to talk. I pressed the intercom button. Actually, Dad, we don't. But your tenant application has been received. The review committee will contact you within 5 business days. Tenant application? His voice cracked. I'm your father. And I'm your landlord, I replied calmly. Former landlord, actually. The Victorian mansion has already been sold to a tech startup that understands the value of innovation. They're converting it into a coding academy. The security feed showed Katherine arriving on my floor, her mascara streaked with tears. Sarah, please. Where are we supposed to go? All our properties,